Alright, hey everyone, Jeff here at StopThePirates.blogspot.com. Let's talk about mortgages for a minute. First thing you want to understand too is mortgage. The etymology of that word is really means death pledge. It's from a French term, mort, or mortem. Engage means pledge. So it's a death pledge basically, and it's from about the 1600s. But anyway, when you apply for a loan, the first thing you have to understand is that there is no money to loan you. It's all credit, and you have an unlimited amount of credit set up at your birth in what's called an exemption account at one of the 12 Federal Reserve banks. So if you look at the back of your Social Security card, there's a letter and 8 digits, an 8-digit number, and the letter is going to be an A through L. It's going to correspond to one of the 12 Federal Reserve banks in the Federal Reserve System that houses your exemption account and these bonds that were set up at your birth. And they set up the bond based on the amount of money that you're hypothetically going to earn. There is no money, but the amount of credits you're going to put back into the system over your lifetime. And that's known as your income tax. So what they do is they bond that based on actuaries, on kind of what everybody, kind of a generalization, what everybody's earning at the time, and then they'll issue bonds on that. Yeah, $1 million to $6 million. Nobody really knows the exact amount. And then fractional reserve banking, they can send out 10 bonds, hypothecated 10 times. So there's nobody, like when you sign a 1003 loan application, the 4-page loan application that you fill out and sign. It's not a two-sided contract. That's a contract where you're the authorized representative for the straw man trust account, the exemption account set up at the Federal Reserve Bank. So the bank or the broker or whoever is trying to get you your mortgage isn't lending you the money. All they're going to do is take it to the Fed, and they're going to issue credits on your account. So, I mean, they just type the amount in on a check. I mean, if that's how they're doing it, they're going to give you a check. Usually, you don't get a check. They just credit the account of the whoever's selling it, and then if there's any money left over, that gets issued to the seller. But anyway, let's get into it. We can get into all that later. So they request that you sign a promissory note if your loan gets approved or whatever. Then a payment account is set up. The promissory note is never endorsed by a member of the financial institution. So and that way it can be sold without your permission. What's interesting too is when you sign this contract, this 1003 contract, they kind of trick you into signing what's called a deed of trust. So you're opening a trust account, and any payments that you make, because when you sign the actual note, that's payment for the house. It's paid in full. They trick you into opening a deed of trust, and then that money goes into an escrow account, and then once you pay it off or sell the house or whatever, they go to the IRS and go, hey, somebody abandoned this account here. Can we keep the money? And they tell them, yeah, you can keep the money. So the whole thing's a mind F from the get-go. That's what the note is. I mean, they have you sign a note. That's what dollar bills are. They're notes. It's a promise to pay. Promise to pay what? Promise to pay, promise to pay. There's no money. It's just credit. And that's where they get us. We think it's worth something, but it isn't. So anyway, 3 days later, the original promissory note, signed in ink, is sold to another institution or foreign government who will collateralize it or use it like a bond and issue currency or loans against it. And you've heard collateralized loan debt obligations, all these different kind of wild and different schemes they got going on Wall Street, and all these things that are bought and sold and traded. This is what it is. It's just it's a game, and they started it, and we'll continue it. But you have to learn how the game is played first. So why 3 days? It's because you have the right to withdraw from or cancel any contract within 3 days of acceptance. It's about the only right we have left, and it's called the Truth in Lending Act. So yeah, you can cancel within 3 days. You know, it's interesting too, if you do take out a mortgage, here's the thing you do, and nobody will do it. No one will take my advice and do it. But never make one payment. See, that's where they trick you too. But you know what's interesting? Now they caught on to that, and they take the first payment out of the escrow account. So the first payment's already made. But if you can get away with it, never make one payment. And there's nothing they can do, because you signed the note and you already paid for it. All matters to the bank is that, you know, you are a flesh and blood human being, and you have affixed your signature to a promissory note. That's it. Because we're all bonded debt slaves. And they got you. So they don't care if you have a great credit score or a poor one. Flesh and blood human beings technically own everything. And all corporations are fictional companies that have no value and cannot function until some human being blows life into them. The promissory note each sell for the same value. Since the promissory note was sold without your permission, the mortgage debt to them is actually paid in full, but they never tell you that. In fact, the bank also sells your repayment plan to an investor or another bank for much less, and agrees to manage the payments for them. Most banks now employ a middle company to collect your mortgage payments, or a servicing company, and that always changes hands. If you ever had a mortgage, you'll know that this week it's with this company and next week it's with the other one, and nobody knows if you ever get foreclosed on. You want to go into court. Why do you go to court? Because games are played on a court. But anyway, they can't produce the note. So if you're interested in like the produce a note technology that works most of the time, they just don't tell you about it. But if you know how to do it, and I have detailed files on how to do it at stopthepirates.blogspot.com, it's really not too difficult. But they can't produce it. The original wet ink signature note is gone. I think they actually destroy it. You just print 10 copies of it and sell them. So when you talk about the national debt and trillions of dollars, you think, my God, how many? I mean, where's all this money coming? That's it. It's a joke. I mean, that's how they're taking over the world. But anyway. So they set up a serving company to collect the mortgage payment. What they do is they trick you, because when you sign the note, you actually paid for the loan, but they trick you into going into what's called a trust agreement or a deed of trust, and they set up this trust account, and that's basically how they get you, because they put themselves down as the beneficiary of the trust, and that's where you're paying into. You're not paying a mortgage note. And you're not even buying the property really anyway, because the state owns all the property. That's why you pay property taxes. So even if you do pay off all the mortgages and everything, you still don't own the house. Because if you don't pay the property taxes, they will foreclose on you. Because that's who owns the house. The state, the county, whoever, the city. Most banks now employ a middle company to collect your mortgage payment. They do this because your mortgage and repayment plan is not reflected on the bank's bookkeeping, and under federal and international law it is supposed to. So the middle companies act as a buffer to keep them out of trouble. I get really frustrated a lot of time trying to explain this to people, how as U.S. debt slaves or American citizens, you know, they think I'm a bad guy because I'm just trying to figure all this shit out, and it doesn't make any sense. So you delve into it and you go, hey, wait a second, this whole thing's a scam, and people look at it like you're anti-American, you know. I mean, seriously. You wouldn't believe the stories I could tell you. I mean, I've had people call the cops on me, the feds, you know, just for talking about this stuff. They blows their mind. Hey man, what are you, anti-American, man? No, I'm just saying, you know, we've been taken over by foreign bankers, you know. Hey man, my brother's in Iraq, man. Afghanistan, man. You know, fuck you, man. Whatever. It's not even worth my time anymore. Anyway, so you don't owe them a debt, and so they conceal the payment as a numbered savings account. If they include your name, they would have to mail you a monthly accounting of, and you know, and that would probably tip you off. So any foreclosure that might occur thereafter is totally bogus and unlawful, because they cannot produce this. The original promissory note. If demanded, they will produce a black and white copy, photocopy. It is the actual counterfeiting of a negotiable instrument, unless it is reduced or enlarged. The point being is that they cannot produce the original note it was sold. I mean, it's probably in China somewhere, you know. I mean, that's who buys most of our debt. The process essentially makes the rich man richer, and explains how the banks can own the bulk of the skyscraper buildings, parcels of land, stadiums across America. In reality, we pay for our homes 3 times over the original purchase price without ever securing ownership. I mean, it's just, the whole thing is just, it's a total scam. If you're interested in finding out what kind of remedies you might have to help you out in this situation, go to stopthepiratesstopblogspot.com. I kind of cut it off right there, 12-13 minutes. But anyway, we live in a commercial world. Everything is commerce. All crimes are commercial. That's why they have a monetary value attached to them. You gotta learn this stuff. It's the most important thing you could ever learn in your life, in this reality, I think. And it'll blow your mind. Go to stopthepiratesstopblogspot.com. Thanks.